hello, hello, check, check, check,
Yes, sir.
check, check.
Yes, sir. It's loud and clear.
नीचे. Good afternoon, everyone. Please connect to the Wi-Fi displayed here on the screen. We are going to have a small activity on Mentimeter, and hence you are requested to connect to the Wi-Fi. Srimati Kavita Padmanabhan, a 2006 batch officer on dais. Our fourth panelist, Dr. Teresa, Project Director at GIZ, leading works on gender in smart cities and resilient urban development in partnership with NIUA. With over 30 years of global experience across regions, she brings deep expertise in urban development, climate action, and governance. We welcome you on stage. And finally, completing this distinguished panel, Ms. Jaya Dindo, Executive Program Director for Sustainable Cities and Director at...
Question? Okay. So we have 3 questions for you. The first one being, when you hear the phrase, so there's a Wi-Fi, so Wi-Fi username and password. The ones who've joined late, I think we can quickly show the Wi-Fi username and password for all of you. So it's Vande Mataram 21 masters. So once all of you are done, we can just quickly move to the Mentimeter. So I think we've already started having responses to our first question, that when you hear phrase climate responsive urban planning, what words do you think of? What comes into your mind? So sustainable, native species, nature-based solutions, solid waste management, non-flooding, nature-based solutions, resource recovery, trees, parks, sustainability, climate resilience, energy efficiency, dense green compact city, adaptability, pollution-free cities, thoughtful planning, carbon credits. Great. So a lot of sustainability, resilience, these are 2 words that dominate the screen. So we can move to the next question. I hope all of you have registered your responses. So we can move to the next question. In your context, which area of the city planning is getting the most attention when people talk about climate resilience? So is it flood and drainage management, heat and greening, water supply and reuse, building bylaws, mobility and streets, informal settlements and vulnerable communities? So most of you are saying heat and urban greening. Some of you flood and drainage management, and most of you are, you've not registered your response yet. So heat and urban planning, flood and drainage management, they top the chart. But I'm happy informal settlements and vulnerable communities also someone has pointed out. So it's very important to have cities that are inclusive. Mobility and streets is 4, water supply and reuse is again. So the responses shows that yes, the hall is awake. So we can quickly go to the third question. Which planning instrument, if strengthened, could make the biggest positive difference of climate responsive development? So whether it's master plan, regional plans, local area plans, town planning schemes, building bylaws, infrastructure design standards and codes, use of GIS, climate and hazard maps in planning. So use of GIS, climate and hazard maps in planning, local area plan, town planning schemes, and building bylaws and development regulations. So I think we have more response coming. So a lot of people are indicating the spatial planning, the geospatial planning to be the most useful one. Fine. So I think I welcome again all of you. So now we come to the main aspect of this. Thank you for your participation. Now when we talk about resilience, since morning we've been talking about this. We've been, there's nice terms that have come about. One is anti-fragility, that in the morning, I welcome sir also for the session. So we've been talking about resilience since morning. So when it comes to resilience, now cities' ability to absorb shocks, adapt continuously and transform systems so that people, including the most vulnerable, can thrive despite an unstable climate or despite shocks is what resilience stands for. Now, let us envision a city that would be resilient. How would you call a city that is resilient in its planning? So we have a very small snapshots of cities that we can call climate responsive, who have planning aspects that is sensitive. Now cities with green spaces, your Mentimeter response also showed that. Cities that are pedestrian friendly, cities that work as sponge, cities again that have permeable pavement spaces, cities that mitigate heat, cities using renewable energy, solar, cities that are having strong public transport encouraging walk to work, compact cities, cities with good public transport, cities with energy efficient building codes, cities with energy efficient sustainable water management system, storm water capture and reuse, and cities that are socially equitable, cities that are inclusive. So all these pictures, AI generated pictures, they show how we envision a city that's planned well, that is planned holistically, that is socially just. Now, livelihood, community living. Now we spoke about this, like a lot of speakers in the first session spoke about that why things are not happening the way we think. Now implementation is the biggest challenge. We all know what are the challenges that our Indian cities are facing. The first being the rapid and unplanned urbanization. We know that a lot of buildings coming up near the coastlines or the floodplains, master plans not getting implemented on ground, even the concepts of master plan graduating onto now micro planning is gaining currency. Failing infrastructure, we have storm water drainage networks that are redundant. We need more infrastructure support, resilient infrastructure, so that the carrying capacity of the cities that is reaching a brink is further enhanced. Urban heat island effect, we know that we really need to mitigate heat in every aspects. Destruction of natural buffers that has happened in the cities. We have a lot of wetlands, mangroves, urban forests, green areas. Now groundwater depletion and water insecurity again is one challenge our cities are grappling with. Institutional fragmentation is very important because governance is the most important thing in the entire aspect of planning. So how one arm of the corporation doesn't know what the other one is doing is where the challenge lies. Now the poor fiscal health of cities. Now if cities have to become resilient, have to build infrastructure that is resilient, they also have to work on their finances. Data and early warning gaps. So how many of us are using data systems to make decisions that are evidence-based? Again, increased vulnerability of urban poor. So Tara ma'am in the morning session spoke about climate justice. So how come our cities, are just for everyone? They're inclusive for every person, irrespective of the caste, gender, creed, and the socio-economic status. Now, there are two pillar strategic approaches for our cities that we would be talking about in the session today. One would be attending to the existing cities. Now, currently, you know that the way we are urbanizing, 50% would be urban by 2050, and cities contribute maximum to our GDPs. Now we have to attend to the existing city. This is pillar one, the challenge that we face all, that we have to retrofit the city so that cities work for its people. And second is having the greenfield development that many states are now thinking of. Now from this emerges our problem statement. So in this session, we'll first lay the problem statement. We'll all have a panel discussion, and thereafter we would be having specific recommendations from this group for the future. So when it comes to the problem statement that we would all try to address during our deliberations today would be that can we move from crisis response to climate ready cities? Can we be more predictive in our analysis? Can we be more prepared than being reactive? Second, can we hardwire and mainstream resilience into our systems, be it in our building codes, be it our bylaws, and be it in the way we think we function, the way we envision and plan our cities? Can we bring funding and resilience together? Obviously, if we have to retrofit the system, it requires funding. So how do we build both together and stitch it together? How from the master plans concept we come to the local neighborhood plans? How we come from macro to micro to make impacts that are of relevance, and how we take decisions that are based on data. So these are the problem statements, and I'm happy that we have a very esteemed set of panelists who will be talking about how Chennai did this entire climate responsive urban planning, how in Assam, how in Ahmedabad we have actual spawn city concepts, interventions to mitigate heat, how WRI is working on various aspects of resilience and international practices. Dr. Kreber would be talking about. So with this problem statement, it's over to the floor and to our panelists that we all deliberate, and then there'll be a Q&A session also, and we should come out with concrete recommendations addressing the problem statement. Thank you all.
I request Anshul sir for the presentation, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Isha, for setting up the context very well. In fact, you said a few things which I was very happy to note, that some of the things which don't get traction, for example, implementation part, the funding part. I hope I'm audible. Okay, I'll stand. And the coordination which is required, to implement all of these solutions. Now, the challenge is that we are good in diagnostic. We know what the problems are. We are able to state the problems, but solutions are still missing, and still we are searching which are the best solutions available. We are trying to, find out some solutions, in some way, in terms of a pilot done in a place which may be replicable, may not be replicable. So context is also important, so we need to understand that. I will basically try to talk about the experience in Chennai, which basically we undertook a comprehensive exercise of master planning, by integrating the environmental planning. I call it environmental planning because it is comprehensive and covers almost everything, but it is something same as climate sensitive urban planning. And I'm saying development also, because planning is one part. The real challenge is in the development. How to implement the recommendations of planning, what are the projects which you need to undertake, and how to integrate this entire thing in your overall, urban, urban ecosystem. Just to give you the context, Chennai through years, it has faced in last 2 decades around 8 major cyclones. 6 of these cyclones caused major flooding in the city, and 1 year 2019 was day zero because it was a drought period, and 4 of the reservoirs which were supplying water to Chennai got dried up. If you look at the right side of the thing, these are the challenges which Chennai as a city is facing and might face in future. So the sea level rise issue is there. The numbers are from Chennai City Disaster Management Report. Then you have the temperature rise predicted by 2041, 2.4 to 2.5. You have projected annual water deficit by 2040, 2050. The numbers are around 4,872 million cubic meter. And then the frequency of the cyclones making landfall during 2002-21, it has increased, so it might be the same pattern later in future also. So why should we talk about climate sensitive planning? So we know the rapid urbanization is happening. I won't call it unplanned, but there is some planning which has been there. But it was not adequately planned, so that's why we see our cities as urban sprawl, haphazard kind of planning, and we face all these problems which we are discussing today. There are 5 core climate vulnerabilities, according to me. All of this is the regular stuff which you have been listening and hearing and in the exercise which was conducted just before this. The most of these are touching that. So urban heat island, we all have heard about it, we know. Then you have urban flooding, you have ecological degradation, you have coastal vulnerabilities. If it is a coastal city, Chennai being a coastal city, I want to talk about that. And then you have communities which are vulnerable because of these challenges. So I call it non-resilient urbanization instead of unplanned urbanization. It is rapid urbanization with huge built-up area coming up in the urban formations. But because we have not planned it well, we are facing all of these problems. Because of climate, the land use is climate blind. We don't do land use, we do land use in traditional way. So we don't take that element of climate into consideration, and that's where the problem is. Haphazard urban built-up, as I said. Population pressure is there. Of course, populations will keep coming in and growing inside the city. So you have to, cater to that. You can't run away from that. So you have to build more houses. The built-up area will increase. The challenge is how to manage this transition, and of course, pollution induced through private vehicles and other reasons. So in simple language, vulnerability is today can be defined as the static plan, which is the norm today. The traditional land use plan, the master plan, is basically static plan. It is not dynamic, and it has with grey infrastructure which is around, it leads to plus climate blind planning. It is causing vulnerability. Resilience will be basically including dynamic climate sensitive urban planning plus blue-green infrastructure instead of just grey infrastructure. This is a mind map of the third master plan. How Chennai is going to embed statutory climate actions directly into the spatial land use regulations. And for the third master plan, out of I think 24 studies, we did 8 sectoral studies only for climate related issues. And that is, the climate action plan for adaptation and mitigation. We created an inventory of greenhouse gas emissions in CMA, the flood control master plan, impact of urbanization on Red Hills catchment area, which is, responsible for water supply in most of the Chennai, most of the city in Chennai, impact of urbanization on coastal aquifer recharge area, urban heat island effects, comprehensive shoreline development plan, and integrated blue-green infrastructure for climate change and adaptation and mitigation. All of this was done to generate evidence. Without evidence, I think it was mentioned by Isha also, without evidence we can just keep talking about it. We won't be able to push for a very, very realistic solution for these issues. So the first one, the first 2 studies relate to climate adaptation and mitigation strategy. So, as part of the process for preparing third master plan, greenhouse gas emission inventory was created by using sensors, and all the scientific ways which were utilized. All of that was validated, and we got data. And according to that, the CO2 equivalent emissions in 2022-23 were equal to 31.44 million tons, and that leads to 2.9 CO2 equivalent per person, this per capita, which is highest per capita emission in the country for Chennai. Whatever reasons are, 24% of it is transport-based emission, and 4 times emissions will happen by 2050. That's a projection. If you look at I said that all of this was generated through a study, and this was basically done through a background research and data collection. Then comprehensive baseline assessment was done, leading to climate change risk assessment and comprehensive climate strategy, and then a framework for mainstreaming the climate action plan into TMP was created. I would like to highlight one important thing, which are gaps. Now we can talk about all these solutions, all these issues, how to implement that, and what are the gaps, what are the challenges we face. Data to action. We can create data, we can generate data, we can create evidence, but how to convert that into action is a big challenge all of us face. We need to I mean, I don't have any answer to that. We need to find our own answers, and that is a challenge which you have to handle. Otherwise, this is all only talk. Institutional coordination is a major thing. In CMA in Chennai, when I was there, we faced major hurdles because of institutional coordination. There are multiple agencies, multiple government departments. It's very difficult to coordinate, bring them on board, and drive home the point, align with them. All those challenges are there. Some mechanism has to be there, otherwise it will not succeed. Local body capacity is very, very weak. Finances, of course, they don't have. Expertise, they don't have. In fact, that is a big thing which I want to say out loud, because we experts sitting here, we can talk all those things, we can publish reports, but if it is not in the context of a local body where we can actually tell them, any local body, what is your problem, how you can sort out your problem, it is not going to work. Monitoring and accountability is a general issue with all the programs, all the these challenges which the cities are facing. And the last but not the least is financing mechanism. How to finance all these interventions which we are going to suggest. That is a very, very big challenge. I think we should not lose sight of that. The third one is, the third study relates to flood control master plan. I would like to just tell that the entire survey was conducted for Chennai metropolitan area, and we could now, we have survey number wise detailing of how much inundation will happen in terms of the level of water if rainfall of a particular intensity falls. So it is a 50-year return period, 50 years return period data, which has been mapped here over the Chennai metropolitan area. Here you can see, and the methodology, as you know, hydrological modeling, catchment based analysis, watershed analysis, flood return assessment was done for 2, 10, 20, 50 and 100 years, and based on that this map was prepared. So we can actually tell if this rainfall happens, this survey number will get inundated to this level. And that's a data which can be used for regulations, for regulating all your development, for restricting developments or modifying the developments which are coming in that area, which can become very, very resilient for such disasters. This slide I would skip. So other two studies, the relate to water security in Chennai, and the Red Hills catchment area, as I was telling earlier, and coastal aquifer recharge area. Both these relate to storage of water, drinking water, as well as groundwater recharge. So this study also needs to be conducted for almost all the cities if you want to secure water for your for your future for the city. And this basically tells you how much development is possible in water sensitive areas. So if you have a catchment area where water falls and comes to a reservoir, if you start developing the entire area, you will not have that much water coming to the reservoir. So you need to balance how much development is possible and how much water you should allow to run or percolate in the system. So you can have multiple ways to do it. You can regulate, you can have a no-build zones, you can go for higher and lower plot coverage system. All those methods are available in the planning, urban planning tools, and you can utilize that. FAR, of course, you can use FAR to handle that. Coming to urban heat island, how much time I have, Isha? Another 5 minutes, I'll try to finish it. Okay, urban heat island assessment. So as I was saying that this was done using sensors, some, in the entire, this is Chennai GCC area where sensors were used, and based on that some imaging was done, thermal, infrared sensor imagery was created, and it was superimposed on the land use plan to find out which are the areas which are heat sensitive, and based on this data we can always undertake mitigation measures. We can do multiple things like green cover, green building, design of the building can be modified, or the new developments, all of those can be modified to ensure that these areas have some reduction and mitigation in terms of heat island effect. The comprehensive shoreline development plan, Chennai has a 52 kilometers long stretch of shoreline. It has 24 beaches and 27 fishing hamlets. A huge community presence there, so anything becomes difficult to intervene. You have to take them on board and align with their aspirations. So that is possible only when you do the stakeholder meetings and communicate with them. But this plan was prepared. Basically, the assessment was done for coastal vulnerabilities. The morphological study was done for the entire coast, and the user profiling and public accessibility analysis was conducted. So entire 52-kilometer stretch was taken for the shoreline plan. 11 character zones were identified and nodes were identified for development. And area development plans and pre-feasibility studies were conducted. The next one is integrated blue-green infrastructure. This is an important study for the third master plan which was conducted. So integration of blue and green is important because sometimes we take blue separately and green separately. To integrate this requires a lot of data collection. All the channels, networks, etc. have to be studied and then connected with the green infrastructure which is available or to be proposed. So major rivers, there are 4 river basins in Chennai. All of that was studied, and it was the network was created and assessed. The idea was to, the outcomes of this study was to promote permeable pavements, decentralized retention systems, urban bioretention, bioswale in building designs, and then of course the implementation, suggestions are there. Of course, blue network and green network leads to resilient city. So Chennai as a sponge city, we have been talking about sponge city, what it means and how to create a sponge city. So a lot of confusion is still there, but it is basically an idea which combines almost everything which you're talking about. It can act as a carbon sink. It can protect your water bodies. It can be a public space. It has a lot of green areas. It can mitigate your flooding. All of that can be combined into sponge city. So one park which we created, I would like to mention about it. It is well known, I guess, Porur Wetland Eco Park. This was neglected open space being used for dumping waste and parking. We took it and created a design with the help of a very good consultant. And it was reclaimed completely and converted into a model sponge park, and we call it a wetland eco park. It has every element which we are talking about today regarding climate planning. But the cost I want to mention, because it is 16 acres area and we invested around 16 crores if I'm not wrong. So 1 acre, 1 crore. That is the ballpark figure, I guess, and that is going to happen because unless you spend money, you will not be able to do these kind of interventions. So yeah, the same thing which I was talking about, why it is significant, because we are facing multiple challenges, and wetland as a blue-green infrastructure, as a socio-cultural amenity, and an enabler for habitats and biodiversity, we can always promote a sponge city, a sponge park concept. These are the key lessons and strategic takeaways. So we need to have a statutory climate mainstreaming, which is not there. So in the master plans, in preparation of master plans, in all your acts, we should bring that as a statutory requirement. And your master plan should integrate environmental planning, climate sensitive planning, along with other things like economic plan, etc. Unless you have that, it will be difficult. Evidence-based, it was mentioned earlier also, again and again, I want to say evidence-based sectoral foundation. Unless you have evidences, you won't be able to push it beyond a point. Design with natural watershed systems, that is important to ensure that you get all the river systems, all the networks, everything in place, and there is a integrated approach towards looking at that. Blue-green infrastructure, as I mentioned, they can be your vital assets, and then development control harmonization. Whatever you decide, unless you have the developmental control rules written in your act, in your rules, it is not going to happen. So this is important, which I wanted to mention here. I think. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
So
So I think all the recommendations that you showed in the last slide, we'll come back to it during our final recommendation session. I would request the next speaker. I think Pani sir has joined online.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Yes, Isha. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate through VC.
And the audio can be increased.
Are you able to hear me? You are able to hear me, Isha?
Please increase the volume also. Yeah, sir.
Volume? Our volume is full. If you can speaker to Is it audible to you,
No, sir, we
Isha?
can't hear you well. I think you need to
Increase.
can you
Okay.
increase it from here, the
Closer.
volume?
Closer.
Can volume be adjusted from here? Can you hear us, sir? We can see your slides, but we can't hear you. Yeah, we can see you now.
Isha, am I audible?
No, I think the volume needs to go up. We'll try and adjust from here.
Yes. Isha,
I think, sir, we can't hear you that well because the volume needs to be adjusted. So can we, is it
yes,
taking time?
yes.
So, sir, we'll just do this technical, I think there's a technical glitch here. We can't hear you well. So, ma'am, we can first have your presentation and then we can do that. Until in the meantime, you can get that adjusted. So, I'll request Kavita ma'am now. She has vast experience in the urban sector. So, sir, can you, I don't know because there's so many screens opening.
Yes, Isha, we.
Time लगेगा?
Not audible? Technique.
We can have your presentation first and then we can take
I think Isha, it was checked. Is it audible now?
Sir, you are online but we can barely hear you. I think there's some volume adjustment that we need to do from here or maybe from your side. We're just figuring that out.
Sorry, because our.
Can you hear us? Are we audible?
Yes, you are audible.
But sir, your volume is very lesser, so I think we're just trying to adjust the volume from here.
Yes, yes. हाँ वहाँ से वॉल्यूम करना.
This is like terrible. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, thank you so much, Isha. And I'd want to first thank Anshul Mishra sir because he set the base for this entire discussion. Based on what Isha had mentioned when she started her initial remarks was that when we talk about climate resilience initiatives, seeing is believing. Somewhere, the implementation aspect, is where all of us kind of feel let down because we do have publications, we do have an understanding on how to go about it. And that was the cue that was given to us as well to talk about how we actually went about implementing or taking up implementation of certain climate resilient initiatives in Assam. I wouldn't want to spell out again, the need for climate resilience. This is something which I'm sure you've been hearing since the morning. But just to again give you a perspective, since we are talking about Assam, we in Assam, especially the capital city of Guwahati, are facing several challenges today, which I think is not very uncommon compared to many of our, both the capital city as well as many of our metropolitan cities, which is the unplanned growth that is happening. There is a sprawl that's happening across our cities. Urban planning is a tenet which is more on paper rather than happening in practice. And for us, again, what happens is that since Guwahati by itself is covered and dotted by hills, with with the rampant hill cutting that's happening as well as the encroachment of the wetland, this unplanned growth has actually led to an issue where, our problems get exacerbated, especially during the rainy season. And one of the main reasons, of course, for that is that we have high rainfall in that area. And very similar to what is happening across the world, this high rainfall that we used to see over a period of about 6 to 7 months is now happening in spurts. So similar to what we would have in terms of a cloudburst, we see that kind of excessive rainfall happening over a period of 2 to 3 days at one go, and then to have a period of lull, which is something, and with that increasing temperatures across our cities as well. The other issue is, of course, the ecosystem loss. Across Assam, especially Guwahati, we've had wetlands dotting the entire area, which unfortunately are, getting depleted at a very rapid pace. And this is something, again, from the, Indian context as well, is not very uncommon. People here in Delhi, I think, very often, we see the newspaper article which says that, one particular wetland went missing in Delhi. So this is something, which all of us need to worry about, think about, because finally, building climate resilient cities is absolutely imperative if we want to have a better quality of life going ahead. So here I'll just talk about the kind of initiatives that we have taken over the past 3 to 4 years. The first was, as I mentioned, the entire, state of Assam has been blessed with several wetlands. What had happened over a period of time was that because of encroachment, we had kind of lost count of the number of wetlands that was there, and we started facing this issue of urban flooding. So for us, one of the ideas behind going ahead with the state legislation was to do a survey of our existing water bodies and conserve and protect them. So that's where we came in with the state legislation, which is the Assam Urban Water Bodies Conservation and Preservation Act, and the rules therein. I'll talk about it in my subsequent slides. We've also undertaken several in-house research on the urban heat effect, especially in 3 of our municipal corporations. Today, based on a lot of work that has been done, and for us, I would say that Chennai, has been a pioneer. We in Assam have looked up to Chennai, especially CMDA, as well as the corporation efforts, I would say so, sir, in various aspects, especially the way in which they have gone about with their drainage master plan and the implementation thereof, and also their flood mitigation efforts. So this is something which we have also tried to replicate in Assam, and through the drainage master plan preparation that we are doing currently for Guwahati, and we've also extended it to 9 of the bigger towns there. And in addition to that, what we have done is to take up certain projects, which is the rejuvenation of our water bodies, which I'll be talking about, creating urban forests, especially in a lot of the degraded hills, surrounding Guwahati, and sponge parks, which again I would, give credit to Chennai, because we've taken a leaf from the kind of work that Chennai has done in terms of creation of sponge parks. Coming to the first, which is basically the Assam Urban Water Bodies Preservation and Conservation Act. So when we came about with this, the mandate was very clear. We wanted to protect our water bodies. And when we tried to find out what is available in our ecosystem, because many of us over here would know that this is not something which is not on the radar. We do have, the Bhuvan app through ISRO, where a lot of the water bodies across the country have already been mapped. In addition to that, the Ministry of Jal Shakti has also done a survey through the urban water body census. But when we decided to take in that particular data and see as to how we can utilize existing data, we realized that there were a lot of gaps. Either a lot of water bodies were not available over there, or the kind of census, the kind of work that was done, we got pinpoint locations which we could not really relate to in terms of a water body. So seeing that there was this absolute gap in terms of understanding what is the extent and number of our water bodies, we decided to go in first with the legislation, which was the Assam Urban Water Bodies Preservation and Conservation Act. This was passed in October 2024, and very soon thereafter we brought in the subordinate legislation in terms of rules, as well as a standard operating procedure by which we decided on the schedule as well as the way in which we wanted to take this entire survey forward. So as a part of the Act, the criteria which we utilized for selection of the water bodies were that we would take the urban center as the basis. So all water bodies within a master plan area were to be covered as a part of this particular census. The second was that all community water bodies, ponds and tanks would also be a part of this, irrespective of size. And we also decided to take in the private water bodies with an area of 2 acres or more. There, I have crossed this. This is only because in the first instance, when we decided on the survey, we decided to leave the private water bodies, considering the sensitivities. People would have this feeling that perhaps government wants to take over their water bodies, which was never really the intent. So we decided that as we go ahead, before we publish, we would leave at least the private water bodies, outside the remit of our survey. But this is the mandate of the Act. And in addition to that, it was also decided that all the inflow as well as outflow channels within these water bodies would also be covered as a part of the schedule. And the water bodies exempted were, of course, the private water bodies less than 2 acres, and some of those which fall within the realm of the forest department as well as the fishery department. So when we went about with this survey, what we did was to have an app which we named as the Aura app. So the idea was to have a set of people. So it comprised of people both from the urban department as well as the revenue department. In addition to that, we also decided to take in people from irrigation department because they were the ones who had done the survey when the water body census for Government of India was done. So these were the kind of batches that were created, and an app was brought in place. So the idea was to populate all the existing data that we had through the variety, whether it was the Bhuvan app, whether it was the water body census report, as well as our own master plan data. So when the particular person would go to the field, he would get all the details in a drop down manner, and all he had to do was to fill in data on what is the perceptible water quality, whether there is encroachment, whether there is water hyacinth, what is the quality of water within it, what is the usage. So this is the kind of data that we decided to take in through the app, and it, as I mentioned, combined the map and the data from 3 different source sets. So what you see on the right hand side is basically the information that we've procured from 3 different sources. So this is just a glance on how exactly the portal looks like. So we decided to go in with only 18 master plan areas to begin with, which is basically the district headquarter of all our bigger districts. And as per the information we already have about 14,494 water bodies. So as and when our teams went to the field, you would see that in addition to that, there is a box which says additional water bodies found during survey. So not just the ISRO data or the water body census report or even our master plan data, when people actually went to the field, there were more water bodies which came into the realm. And we decided to do it during a lean period, because otherwise what happens is there is a lot of water that is otherwise gets collected in areas. So when you go to the field in the lean season, you get this information which tends to be more accurate. So this is the information that we have as on date, and what you see on the lower level is for one specific district that we have shown. This is the Borpeta master plan area, which is a very small district headquarter, which has about 97, and about 1 additional water body was found. So now you can see that there are 107 shown. So this is just to show that despite all of this, there is duplication that happens. So this is something which we will tend to validate subsequently, because there is a draft schedule which we brought in thereafter. So the idea was we do the entire exercise through a field level survey and thereafter go in for a draft notification. So this draft notification has already been done for around 8 towns, and this covers around 300 to 400 water bodies. And subsequent to the claim and objection stage, we would be notifying these water bodies within our schedule. So once this particular water body is finally notified in the schedule, what happens is we would ensure that there is no construction that is permitted on such land. And what will thereafter happen is that we would also be updating the revenue records thereafter to very clearly indicate that this is a water body. So as and when somebody comes for a building permission, it would be integrated with our building permission system as well, whereby which no building permission would be given. And in addition to that, there is going to be a display of publication or prohibition there, which is a water body.
Yes, sir. The volume is low. I'm sorry, it is audible. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
But how to actually connect this to there?
Rajat and Gaurav, एक बार mic off करा दीजिए. I think they must be listening.
So one of the aspects that we integrated within the Act was the fact that we do realize that this is a very expensive affair. You know, the kind of money that is required for protection of water bodies would be immense. So what we did was to also add an aspect of CSR funding within the Act as well. So today, while this particular dashboard, it's not yet made public, once it's made public, the idea is anybody across the world may see the data which is available on this particular app and decide to fund any water body of his choice. So this is something where we would eventually go for CSR funding and also crowdsource funding from several people who want to, you know, help in preserving a water body in a particular area. So these were, you know, some of the aspects that I wanted to talk about in terms of our attempt in trying to protect our water bodies within Assam. This is, you know, the second one that I'm talking about is the rejuvenation of the Seal Saku Beel. This is of immense importance for Guwahati. This is a project that is almost 4 years now in, you know, since we started our efforts. So this is how Guwahati is for people who are not aware. We as a city are dotted by hills across. So you have the mighty Brahmaputra on one side, a rail line on the other, and several hills dotting. And if you see the built up area of Guwahati, you can see that huge difference that has happened between 2002 as well as 2025. And the relevance, so Seal Saku Beel is somewhere over here. I don't know whether the pointer is in place. But Seal Saku Beel is the water body on the right, and it gains relevance because it is one of the 3 outlet points for the entire water of Guwahati to drain into the Brahmaputra.
You can hear this.
How much time do I have?
Time's up.
Time's up. Okay, then I'm going to just quickly go through these. So this is just to give you an idea. From 2003, what was about 450 acres went to around 80 acres in 2021 when we started this effort. And the idea was to, you know, take it up as a project for multiple variety of uses, whether it's flood mitigation, whether it's, you know, removal of encroachment, creating, you know, a biodiversity hotspot. So what we did was to separate the sewer line as well as the core area. This is just to give you an idea of how exactly the water body looked, you know, when we had drained out the entire water and, you know, taken up the excavation. And this is how it looks currently. And our target to date, so, you know, after the intervention, we have about 1.5 million cubic meter of, you know, capacity that this particular water body can now hold. And our target is 3.5 million cubic meter by the end of 2026. And work is underway as I talk. I would not want to take too much time. Again, these are some of the initiatives that we've taken in and around Guwahati in terms of creation of sponge parks. I'll again not mention, you know, on what exactly a sponge park does. Sir has already mentioned about it. And time is up. This is something that may, you know, be of relevance to people because we talk about creation of urban forests, and this is the kind of issue that many of us face because of degradation of our hillocks, rampant hill cutting. So we had taken up this particular hillock in Guwahati as a pilot case to see whether we can take up some steps for, you know, taking care of, you know, the multitude of small little hillocks that we have across Guwahati. So we undertook this particular degraded patch. We undertook slope engineering as well through soil nailing, as well as a Miyawaki forest plantation on this site. And, you know, this is the effort, you know, after about 1.5 years. It took 2 years in the making. There were a lot of problems that happened. We went with soil nailing. The idea was that we thought there would be a lot of growth that would happen. It didn't happen in one season. But thereafter, we undertook the Miyawaki cultivation, which showed us results in just about, you know, 8 months. So there is a small video as well. I'm not too sure whether it would play. The Honorable Chief Minister had also tweeted about it, so here it goes. I don't know. Can somebody help here?
Rajat, can you help with the video? It's not getting clicked.
Okay,
So we can
I
have
think
it played later.
played subsequently. It's gone rogue now.
I think link is covered.
Okay. No, I have no control over the cursor anymore.
Not it?
Yeah.
Is it? Maybe we can play it later.
Subsequently, yes. Okay. So this was the last slide that I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So it was great that what Guwahati and neighboring areas have done. So it was exactly the example that we wanted to show. What cities need to do, what exact interventions are needed at city level to make things actualized on whatever we are talking about. I mean, on ground impact would only be made once we do such activities in a city. So I think we have with us Bachandri Pani sir, he's Municipal Commissioner Ahmedabad. Sir, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can. I can hear you. Hope I am being heard there.
Yes, you've been heard. It's much better.
Great. The best thing is to listen to that you are being heard by someone.
But I think now we can hear you, sir. I still it would have been better, but I think it works, right? So, sir, please, we'll love to hear from you what Ahmedabad has done and what specific intervention the city has taken to ensure climate responsive urban planning in action.
Thank you so much, Isha. My panelists, Anshul, Kavita ji, Dr. Teresa, Ms. Jaya, all of you, great listening to Anshul and Kavita ji. And, Ahmedabad, I will not go into the problem statements anymore. I can go straight to the solutions next. So basically, these are the key themes and the key priorities that we have for sustainable development in the city of Ahmedabad. Next. As far as climate resilience and net zero initiatives go, Ahmedabad is the first in the country to have a net zero climate city action plan. So our plan is to reduce 55% of the emission by 2030 and 79% by 2050, and by 2070 91%, 200%. So this is spanning over 8 sectors, 25 strategies and 85 actions, and the focused sectors are already deliberated, so I am not going into it. So we have established a net zero environment and climate resilience cell in the energy efficiency department to have it implemented. Next. So as I have told you, we are Ahmedabad is the first city in India to develop a net zero climate resilient city action plan. This is in line with the Government of India's net zero by 2070, and out of 9 compliance badges, 8 have already been complied to, and this is because we have already implemented the urban greening policy measures. The policy is there, and we also have a policy for good construction practices, and the entire green cover has increased in the city from 10% in 2021 to 12.5% in 2025. So there is a significant improvement in air quality as well, percent improvement over the 18-19 levels. Next. So if you see the current renewable energy efficiency of Ahmedabad city as a whole, our 14% of our electricity consumption is now through renewable energy, and this will be by 43% by 2026. By 2029 to 2030, we will be able to achieve 100% renewable energy. All our consumption will be from only renewable energy. So for that, recently for the 100% renewable energy, we have floated a tender, and Ahmedabad is the first city in the country to float a tender for the renewable energy for all its operations. So basically our water and wastewater operations, they contribute to 80% of overall electricity consumption. Next. So So this is the heat action plan. Ahmedabad city in 2013, first city in the country to have the heat action plan, and because of that, we have been able to prevent almost 2,380 deaths by 2018. And the components I will not discuss. I'll go further. Next. Now our priority is that we have around 200 lakes, and most of the lakes are with the revenue department. But now what we are doing is that we are taking these lakes from the revenue department and rejuvenating them. Most of these lakes have tremendous amount of encroachment. Recently we are slowly removing the encroachment, rejuvenating the lakes, and we have been able to revitalize the lakes in the city. So almost now in 67 lakes the work is ongoing for rejuvenating the lakes, and out of these 67 we have been able to actually interlink 32 lakes, and remaining 12 lakes the interlinking work is in progress. Now in these lakes in and around, as we have listened that blue and green infrastructure is going together, and very important thing is that in our city we are actually going on a very, very targeted approach for population well. In Ahmedabad we call it Khamba Ki Kuan, bigger size actually wells, and the roof rainwater harvesting structures in all of our 1850 buildings of Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. We are adding the roof rainwater harvesting systems. Next. So these are some of the lakes that we have rejuvenated. Next. So as I was telling you that the tree area, the green cover has increased, and from 2011-12 there is a massive tree plantation drive in the city of Ahmedabad. Last year we planted 4 million trees, and this year we are going to plant 5 million trees. Of course, in the cities it is difficult now for us in this year to have 5 million trees. There is no land available right now, so next year I will be having less amount of land. But this year, up to this year, if you see, so far 50 million trees have been planted, and mostly it is through the NIUA method. Next. And what we have found is that because of this tree plantation, wherever massive tree plantation has happened, the heat index has gone down, and wherever the tree plantation, the coverage is not there, so that we have identified and we have focused in this year in the 5 million tree plantation drive. And where we are doing that? In our different transportation corridors, in the lakefront and water bodies, and in all the building of the corporation, and wherever we are getting any land. For example, you have some of the pictures here below the metro, below the flyovers, junctions, all of these places. So basically we want to make the city green. Next. So these are some of the examples of what are we doing, and this 100 acres biodiversity park Gaspur, in the last several 3-4 years we have been able to plant more than 10 lakh trees in this area. Next. So the second example is the Sabarmati riverfront. Sabarmati riverfront is basically not about a recreation area, but also a climate, and sustainable development. As far as the entire plan is concerned, the phase 1 is completed. The phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 works and are going on. This will be the longest riverfront in the world. Next. If you see the pictures, you can see how bad it was in 2001 when the river didn't have, because it is not a perennial river. So because of that, the situation was very bad, and the markets and everything. But you see the after photographs of the riverfront. Next. The natural resources management in the riverfront is something that I would like to focus. There are several parks, flower park, biodiversity park, and all of this actually makes this one of the longest linear parks. So because it is going to be 42 kilometers, so 42 kilometers linear park we are developing in different zones. Next. Mobility, yes, this is very, very important because up to today, we have 1,200 buses which are operating both BRTS as well as AMTS. But this year alone, what we are doing is that we don't want any fossil fuel based vehicles anymore, and we are going ahead with, we are trying to make the entire, all the fleet of Municipal Corporation Ahmedabad RE based, it is EV based by 2030, all 100% vehicles will be EV based, and this year alone, only this year, we are procuring 2,000 EV buses. Next. These are some of the things which are very, very important. Technology, how technology can help us in sustainable development. IPMS system, this is a single ticket, single payment system that we are doing. Adaptive traffic control system in the junctions, vehicles need not be there for a long period of time because of manual. It will be seamless and automatic fare collection system, and we are actually making one urban metropolitan transport authority, a single authority which will actually ensure the metro, BRTS and GSRTC buses to be centralized government systems. Next. So these are some of the hotspots areas where, as I was telling you, how by 2018-19 levels, the PM10 level has decreased. These are some of the examples in different areas of the city. Next. We have started with the policy of good construction practices as well as the policy for good demolition practices, because in the city a lot of development is actually getting renewed. So because renewal of there is a lot of demolition, and because of the demolition lot of air pollution. So good demolition practice and good construction practice, this is what we are focusing. We have tied up with IIT Kanpur, and now for air quality we have a real-time source apportionment lab in the city of Ahmedabad, and we have placed 203 sensors, and there is a huge amount of penalty that we are inflicting on the buildings. Next. Waste management and circularity, this is a very, very important point that I must focus, because RRR is the theme of Ahmedabad's waste management system. In all the 48 wards we have RRR centers, and now the legacy waste is almost zero. There is plastic recycling happening. The Bhulera Expressway, actually the base is taken from the innards of Ahmedabad waste from the landfill site. CND waste being used, reused, and there are a lot of recycled products that we are using as paver blocks and all of that. And Gujarat's first and the biggest waste to energy plant is in Ahmedabad, which processes waste for energy. Next. Thank you. These are some of the examples that I have thought. I hope I am not, I have time. Thank you so much for patient hearing.
Thank you, sir. I think you finished right in time, and such nice examples. And I think what stood out was the policy for good construction practices and also demolition practices. Apart from your city having a net zero climate action plan already in place, and also the mobility aspect that you spoke about, that the entire fleet is being converted to EV by 2030. So these are very good pointers that a city actually can learn from, and these are actually all these are the building blocks when we talk about climate resilient urban planning, and actually these are the elements that comprise of this resilient practices. Thank you for sharing that, sir. So in the next line of speakers, we have Dr. Teresa Kerber. She is Project Director, Gender in Smart Cities, Resilient Urban Development from GIZ. Over to you, Dr. Teresa. We also have a mic, a pointer and a mic now, like if you would want to use it. I think we can sit in.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am audible? Yes.
Yes, you're audible.
Yes. From the point of view of the Indo-German international cooperation, cities are the central actors for global climate action. And today I am honored to present you some international good practices and approaches for climate responsive cities for all. climate resilient infrastructure, and for closing the urban climate finance gap. And when we talk about transformational adaptation to climate change in cities, if we ask who wants change, everybody wants change. But if we ask who wants to change, the story is very different. And the IPCC prepared a special report on global warming in cities, and which makes one imperative clear. Limiting warming to 1.5 degrees demands structural changes in infrastructure, in governance, and in community engagement. Why is this community engagement so important? Because everyone wants change, but far fewer are willing to change themselves or their systems. Adaptation to climate change also has an equity mandate. Adaptation must reach the most vulnerable populations first. And leave no one behind is not a slogan, it's a design requirement. The urban opportunity means that cities concentrate both at the same time, the climate risk, but also the adaptive capacity and innovation. And local action at scale is where the 1.5 degrees target is going to be won or lost. In Germany, we have this wonderful book, is the Concepts and Strategies for Spatial Development in Germany. But we are not really talking about only spatial development, we are also talking about 4 different core areas, 4 strategic concepts. The first one is enhancing the competitiveness of Germany as a country. The second one is ensuring the provision of public services for the people living in Germany. The third one is controlling and sustainable developing land uses. And the fourth one is shaping climate change and the transformation of the energy system. All these 4 have to work together, not only the spatial part. And all work together with the principle of sustainability and spatial cohesion at the same time. And I'm working for GIZ here in India, the technical agency for international cooperation of the government of Germany, and we have an approach called the double leap. The double leap means we have to manage the urban growth, support our partners in manage the urban growth on one side, and to support building climate resilience on the other side. Rapidly growing cities face this dual challenge. They have to absorb millions of new residents, but simultaneously they have to build the climate resilience. And what we call the German approach is partnerships, finance, and private capital. Partnerships means municipal partnerships. A core component is hand-on-hand, city-to-city partnerships that exchange solutions and build local capacities across continents. And for that, we have a GIZ as a technical cooperation and KfW as a financial cooperation, as channels that we use to mobilize additional funding for urban development and essential infrastructure, for example, as water supply, solid waste management with a circular economy approach. But unlocking this creditworthiness in our partner cities, partner ULBs, is one of the key areas that we are supporting in the topic of sustainable urban development. And there is still an enormous scope to bring private investment to the table so that sustainable, climate resilient, future relevant investment are actually made. This is a quote from Mrs. Birgit Pickel, Director General from the German Federal Ministry of Economic Development and Cooperation. And she gave an interview to the German press right after a bilateral meeting with MOHUA at the Indian Pavilion in the World Urban Forum in Baku. And it was very well received with the general public in Germany. And talking about a master plan, how do master plans look in other countries, for example? The city of Frankfurt, they do not talk only about the city, they talk about the whole region. And this is something that we have been hearing since the morning with the approaches from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And a climate-friendly city goes hand in hand with the supporting the dynamics of an economic metropolis. And why climate-informed master plans matter? because the master plan is the basis for the legal enforceability in a city. The master plan establishes statutory frameworks for land use, zoning, and building permits, and makes climate action legally binding to the land use. This is one quote from one study that GIZ supported within the framework of Germany's International Climate Initiative. There are many international examples. For example, the city of Copenhagen, they are aiming to be carbon neutral by 2025, but they also have a network of recreational areas designed to promote new trees in the city, but also buildings have to have green roofs, for example. In Rotterdam, they also have a comprehensive climate plan that includes climate smart certification for buildings, but also for public spaces. And in the city of Hamburg, for example, we have the RISA project. And the RISA project means retain the rain where it falls. If you would like to wash your car over the weekend, just some water in your car and clean it, the police will come and will find you. Why? Because the river in Hamburg the water is very salty. The water that the citizens of Hamburg are drinking are from the ground. And if you wash your car, you are contaminating the water that we all are going to drink later on. And all these different pieces of modules and pieces of bylaws have to work together for a city to become resilient. We have also other examples. For example, in the city of Cologne, in the city of Düsseldorf, in the central part of the city, there is a very expensive street called the Königsallee. Very expensive piece of land in the middle of the city, and the city officials had the idea that create Europe's largest green facade. If a developer would like to build or renovate a building in the Königsallee in Düsseldorf, they have to create a green facade that works together with all other buildings that are already in the street. And they have to bound to maintain this green facade, green for 99 years at least. And we also have other examples from the work of GIZ in Mérida, in Mexico, where we created stakeholder consultations and participatory processes to redesign public spaces around, for example, a medical clinic. In a medical clinic, there is a lot of traffic, but at the same time we need shades so that to reduce heat waves, better soil permeability, safer streets, rain gardens, for example. And in South Africa, in the city of Isikaleni, the adaptation project was more focused on urban floods. At the lower level, concrete digital solutions, I'm running out of time, just sorted this one. In the city of Guadalajara in Mexico, for example, the city officials told us we have satellite pictures, we have LiDAR flights, and we know where all our trees are, but we don't know if the trees is healthy or not healthy. How can we manage? If we instruct all staff from the municipality, go and check all the trees in the city, if they are healthy or not, we will take 10 years. How can we manage? The solution was citizen science, a digital solution where the citizens of Guadalajara themselves could map the trees with augmented reality. I can see in my mobile phone this tree could be pine, for example. And then I get a list. These are the different options to check if the tree is healthy or not. And with this digital solution, they managed to map the trees and to find out if they are healthy or not in 1 month. And this is also one point that is important for us because as we find out at the beginning, we need this community engagement in order to fight climate change altogether. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think, thanks for bringing this international perspective, and I think cities like Copenhagen, Rotterdam, they're such good examples, and Frankfurt also. So I think in the morning when we spoke about the city economic region approach, it's good that Frankfurt is actually following that. So thank you. And our next speaker is Ms. Jaya Dindo. She's Executive Program Director, Sustainable Cities, and Director WRI.
All right, so can you hear me okay? Okay, I'm the last presentation here, and hopefully, did I do something? Sorry. Oops. Yep. So hopefully we'll have the audience Q&A after this. So these days, as you know, we can't get past a conversation without mentioning heat or AI. I will talk about heat resilience. And also given that it's NIUA's 50th year, just to say that when NIUA was established 50 years ago, the main urban agenda was Roti Kapda Makan. Housing people, building the infrastructure and the services needed in the expanding cities. Now today those challenges are still pervasive, but we are operating in a fundamentally different world, where for the first time in the history of our urbanization, we have to look at urban growth, looking at the deepening inequality within the framework of climate challenges and climate change. Whoops. Okay, thanks. All right, so basically nowhere, we see these challenges and we feel them the most than in cities. And of course now heat is no longer an environmental challenge, it's no longer seasonal. It is a year-round thing that everybody in different places is experiencing. So the question now is not how our cities will grow, but whether they will remain habitable within this new climate reality that we are facing. Now let's just look at heat stress across India, right? So what we have learned is that heat stress across India is continuous, it is extreme, and it is unequal. So basically your nights are becoming warmer, your winters are becoming shorter, and a lot of the economy is vulnerable to this continuous stress. The map that you see on the right basically is showing you just the average heat experienced, 1 hour of heat stress experience between January and March of this year. And as you can see, it went beyond the population of 90% that were impacted by heat stress. So basically, we are not even talking about a future scenario, we are talking about a clear and present risk. When you look at cities and when you look at heat hazard, basically cities intensify this crisis. They show where this crisis is, and over here you see the map of Tamil Nadu. The red spots are actually the urban centers, right? This is where the natural land has been replaced with concrete and asphalt, and there's a lot of human activity which is going on, buildings which are being built, which is contributing to these urban heat island effects and these islands exacerbating. So urban heat essentially is not accidental. It is an outcome of planning decisions, or rather poor planning decisions. And when we talk about heat waves, and if you just talk about it as a natural phenomena, the Indian subcontinent should experience one every 30 years. But as we know that now we are experiencing heat waves on an annual basis. 10 years ago, when WRI India did a study in Surat on urban community resilience assessments, we studied heat in Surat. And it was seen as an impending crisis, but it was something that was treated as a discomfort then. So when you talked about, what are the ways in which the community was reducing discomfort, it was about putting on fans, spraying a little water, sitting on the porch, sitting under trees. These were the kind of responses we were getting from communities back then. And now heat is basically deeply unequal, impacting low-income communities and especially gig workers.
GIS, so it's completely free. So using that, we studied the energy consumption. In the sense, we developed a model to see how the energy consumption is linked with the built form. In built form, in terms of two land uses, commercial and residential. So it gave us some results that by changing certain aspects of these commercial and residential buildings as well as the zones, we can reduce the city's energy consumption. So when we submitted this report, thankfully the Tirupati Urban Development Authority as well as the Municipal Commissioner decided to amend certain of the zonal regulations and building bylaws, which is now in progress. So this is in brief about it. This is another way of looking at one aspect of climate, which is energy, which can be handled through building bylaws.
Great. So I think this is one of the examples where, you know, a study has resulted in an impact on ground and change in the zonal. Still the process has to start. It is already initiated. But this is how a good research can help you take an intervention in your city. So thank you. Any other planners? Because I think we have a lot of planners in the room, and you've been hearing us patiently all this while, so I think we really want to hear back from you. Anything that you would want to so in the recommendation, I think two things that we forgot adding were institutional capacity building is one thing that is also needed, because if so much of retrofitting has to be done, so much of resilience has to be mainstreamed, so our people also need to be trained that way. So I think institutionalized capacity building is one of the things. And in the morning you saw today our Center of Excellence doing excellent work and training so many planners in all the modern aspects of planning, and resilience is one of them. So I think closing the loop, anti-fragility. So we should close with this word that we really need to make our cities as resilient that if anything happens, they should be able to bounce back. And this is what is needed. Any closing comments from you, ma'am, Dr. Teresa or Ms. Jaya? So everyone is full of thoughts. So thank you all, and thank you, Panisa, for joining us online, and thank you all for being so patient. And it's easier said than done. So ultimately, it is about implementation on ground. And through these efforts, we really want to initiate that dialogue, because there's a lot of missions that are there in Mahua, through which we are trying to promote resilience. We are providing money for the initiatives, the latest one being the Urban Challenge Fund. But what is needed is implementation on ground. So therefore, it is our small contribution to nudge people to think that way, because resilience really has to be mainstream. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Ma'am, I would request you to felicitate our panelists with a small token of appreciation. And I would thank my team, led by Grace. Thank you so much for helping us out, organize everything. And our Amrut team, led by Gaurav, and all our Amrut teams, and obviously Usha. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So this is the book that Thank you so much everyone for being a great audience. We have another session on climate financing and PPP across this hall, which is hall number 2 and 3. You can attend that too. Thank you so much.
मैं तो 4-5 बार मिस कर दिया।
मेरा भी लास्ट चांस ले चुका है।